Source Coding coming to you early Saturday morning. Well, it's early Saturday morning for me, and it's probably even earlier on the West Coast, but not so early if you're in Europe or one of those countries over there. So, let's get started. You've got a few possibilities to look at today. I think I'm going to go ahead with updating the Comparers package to use a new build system. And as part of this, also going to be converting some nuspec packages like this one here, actually, to use the csproj system. And this should work for these metapackages as well as the ordinary packages that actually have source code in them. These comparers packages, just for a little historical info, there are there are 4 packages now on NuGet, and they're all these are the package names as well. And then there's one meta package that pulls in the 2 more common ones, and then I've got 3 other meta packages that are from an old name. So this was back before namespacing was common on NuGet, and so these ones are non-namespace names. So I just keep them and just release new ones that just have dependencies on the updated names, and so that way people who adopted this library pretty early can still just upgrade like normal and don't have to worry about the name change that happened in the packages. So I've actually got 4 meta packages here, that is packages without any actual DLLs. So I'm going to upgrade those as well as we go along here. Alright, so let's see. I'm going to pull up, let's see, last time, did we work on disposables, I think? We worked on disposables last time. And I'm just going to copy over some of that because a lot of it is just boilerplate as far as the build stuff goes. And this directory build props, I got to take a look and see how I'm doing that over here anyway, what these csproj files look like. Yeah, pretty busy. And we've got a lot of stuff in here that really should be in a directory build props and isn't for some reason. So we'll move all that over as well. Okay, so let's just start by copying over this directory build props completely. Spell right. Casing is important because this is going to be building on Linux. Okay, so we've got authors version needs to be 6.0 over here. And yeah, we'll just call that good. Just call it 6.0 for now. We might release a point release just with the updated metadata, although let me check out and see where we're at, what that actually looks like right now for these packages. So if I take this package straight from NuGet, no cheating here, and open it in the Package Explorer. Okay. So, well, it's calling it deterministic because there's no DLLs. Oh, and no source either, so of course this isn't the package to check. Let me see here. What we actually need is the Nito.Comparers core one will be the one that we need to check here. Yeah, so we've got... interesting. I wonder why that's even a check. I don't know why that's important, but okay, we can do that. Not a continuous integration build, but we do have symbol servers, so it's pretty good. The package that's out there, we might just upgrade this just to get these checks passing. It should just be a point upgrade. There's not going to be any semantic changes at all. So let's see, copied over that directory build props, and this does a lot of common things, like we don't need to worry about the version anymore, or authors. Target frameworks we still need, language version no. Warnings as errors, documentation files, these are all things that go into the directory build props. And I'm thinking about moving those package tags in there too, unless they differ by project. They don't, but maybe they should. I think they should. So I'm gonna leave that out there. The icon URL is also handled by directory build props, but it's slightly different. I'm sticking it, I'm calling it icon PNG, and it is at, I think, the same level as directory build props then. Let me see how I set this up in disposables. Yeah, their icon is at directory build props. So I'm going to move that icon real quickly here. Ignore the mess of my computer. And where are we? Comparers. So, where are we at? Should be over here. Oh yeah, there we go. So I'm just going to move this icon into the source directory and call it icon. Part of this upgrade is just making sure that all of my different libraries have the same layout with the same files, named the same things everywhere. It's just easier to work with. Okay, so when we move that file, we also have to update the README, because that is also being pulled in by the README. So, let's see. There. Okay. And actually, I'm going to make that a separate commit, and oh yeah, boy, I've got these things in here I totally forgot about. I've got some work in progress here on natural string comparison. Boy, I should have checked this to make sure it was clean first. Alright, so let's just move this first. And then let's see, we want to stash these changes. Get that out of there. Okay. You know, I had this problem on the other repository too. Visual Studio seems to auto-generate this .assembly attributes file, and I'm not sure why. I just included it in the git ignore. Which, no, yeah, may as well. Just to keep this somewhat consistent. Yeah, I'll stick it at the end. What is it? Assembly info? I already forgot. Assembly attributes. Yeah. Okay, let's commit that separately too. Okay, and then back to putting in the directory build props. So we've got the icon in. Let's tear the icon out of up here. We don't need any of the rest of this. Symbols are all taken care of. Root namespace I might want to move into directory build props. Failed to save. Interesting. Alright. What happened here? Oh, you know, I think I might have, did I accidentally stage this? Oh, no. Because we've got additional targets. What a mess. Okay, my bad. Wow, I really should have cleaned up my working directory first before I started anything today. Well, okay, now you get to see me struggle with Git. Git is not my first language. I'm in my native language. So, you know what I actually prefer to do? I hate to say this, but my preferred Git client is Visual Studio. They have a really nice one. Pop this open here. Let's jump over to Comparers, which isn't even in here. Open this up and see if we can fix my mess, because that's a bit of a mess. Alright, so the problem is I can't actually save it because it changed underneath me. It changed underneath me because I staged it. Okay, that makes sense. But formerly it had these target frameworks. This target frameworks change should have gone in the stage. So let me see if I can clean this up underneath Visual Studio and then let Visual Studio save. Or sorry, the stash. I'm using completely the wrong terms here. So into this stash, yes. This part needed to be in the stash. So I'm just going to stage this to go in the stash as well. Except, well, yeah, we'll just stash all of that. That's fine. Okay. Now we can stash. And now, going back to Visual Studio Code, now only the target frameworks have changed. And actually, we're just going to take the old ones because I'm not interested in updating those right now. Actually, I'm just going to exit out of this and just save it as such. And overwrite. Alright. Double check. Make sure that stay in Visual Studio Code for that. Make sure that does what we thought it would. Yes. Okay. Alright. Now we should have a clean working directory and can actually get some work done here. Okay. So we've updated core, csproj. Let's update these other csprojes while we're in here right now. Okay, so different description. Delete everything that's the same, essentially. Since those package tags might be different. I think I am going to move that root namespace up, but I'll do that in just a moment. Do that in a separate commit. Okay. All the common stuff that's now being taken care of by that directory build props. Don't need to specify this in any of our projects anymore. And also, we don't need full debug symbols. So this is a holdover from from source link debugging, which is where the DLL gets some extra metadata applied to it so that it can pull the source files directly from GitHub. In order to make that work, you used to have to have full debug symbols instead of the new portable debug symbols. That wasn't a source link problem. That was a code coverage problem. It used to be that you couldn't get code coverage if you had a portable debug symbols. So the code symbols the code coverage would get completely thrown off, which is why I had this little bit of code in here saying essentially I can do code coverage and get the correct results for a debug build. But when a release build came out, I didn't bother with it. So now we can just delete that because the portable PDBs work everywhere, which is really nice. We also don't need source link because our directory build props pulls that in too, which is really nice. the full debug symbols again. Let's see where we're at here. Okay, so we've got this one I think is all done. This one looks all done. And one more. Okay, the description is different. Version's the same. All these settings are the same across everything and are now in the directory build props. We don't need full debug symbols anymore. And that's it. Interesting. I'm targeting like a really old version of System Reactive here for really old net standard versions. May as well keep that in. Alright, I am going to move this root namespace up, but let's save everything first here. Well, you know, I should be running this little utility so that things that I type actually show up on the screen. No magic strings here. Alright, we should be able, at this point, I'm just going to do a quick build. Let's see if this works from the command line. I don't know if I've ever built this from the command line, other than in continuous integration. Worked fine. Alright. I'm going to go ahead and commit this, except I don't see my directory build props file. Well, that must have already gotten committed. Or it got deleted. Oops. Not sure when I did that. Okay. Well, that was me messing around with Git. Unless it got staged by accident. Let me see here. It did get staged. Or stashed, sorry. This is fun. Okay, so let's see. How do I want to handle this one? Okay, so this got stashed by accident. My bad. But now I've got other files, including one that should be in the stash. It's also changed. So you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to stash this one again. Oops. This is me getting, doing Git all wrong. So, okay, so that's the one that we just stashed. And here's the one that we want to pull this one change out of. So let's pop this guy. And then you know, I thought that you could stash just the staged things. I thought that only the staged things would be stashed. Apparently not. So, okay. What I'm going to do, do it old school. I'm just going to stick this out temporarily in my documents. There we go. Now I can stash it. And then I want to unstash this guy and bring back that file. Alright. Now I have everything. That was probably the most awkward Git workaround ever, but hey, I don't pretend to be a Git genius. So now we have directory build props back in here, and everything else should be working. I'm going to do that build again now that we have directory build props. And it should apply all those common settings to every one of our packages built. And here we go. Well, you know what I did is I turned on a bunch of, ooh, wow. It might take a little while to work through this. So what I've done is I've got FXCop and a lot of other things that get turned on for code quality reasons. So let's walk through these, and I'm going to pull this open in Visual Studio proper here. I think it's in my recent list, but I do have the repo open. So. Comparers is one of my favorite libraries that I've written. It isn't used a whole lot, though. What is that assembly attributes file that comes out of nowhere? Alright. Let's build NBS and see what breaks. There's a lot of things that are breaking. And I think a lot of these are going to be false positives, but oh, they're there. Okay. Well, that's interesting. That's an interesting warning, because I have so in this library we have this comparable base, which you can derive from to implement all these different comparable interfaces for you with just one or two functions that you implement, or actually just give it a comparer. You set this comparer and then it implements everything off of that comparer, so you don't have to rewrite a bunch of stuff. So this comparable base defines the basic comparable interfaces, and there's a separate comparable base with operators. The reason for this is, at least the different coding guidelines would recommend that you not provide operator overloading unless the type you were implementing had kind of like value type style of semantics. So it's interesting that they're bringing this up here, because that means that somebody has reversed that decision and says that now you should always define those operators. However, that would be a breaking change for this library, because a lot of times it's convenient to have things compare to each other, but you still use like operator equals for things like reference equality. Is that a good idea though? I don't know, but like I said, changing that here would be a breaking change. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to steal an editor config. Just going to steal this one, and we're going to ignore these for now, at least that one, because I don't want a breaking change to go out with this. We're just updating the build system. So where did that go? Alright, we want CA1036. Sorry. I mean, the entire point of this entire library is defining comparable things. So turn that one off. Alright. Well, let's see here. Let's go back up to the top, walk through it one at a time. Parameter expression of method 4 is never used. That's actually deliberate, because this is a way of having a fluent API so that you can pass an expression to this method and have it derive the type. The important thing is the type here, and especially when you're dealing with anonymous types, sometimes it's really convenient to just give it an expression and say use whatever expression this or whatever type this expression is. So that's what this is, and the expression is not evaluated deliberately. So I'm going to, this is a good warning overall though, so I'm just going to suppress it in the source. Wow, there's so many options here. Alright, and I'm going to do the same down here. And these are just going to be like, I'm going to keep them at one line, overrides here, and not have anything. Is this one the same? Yes. Again, it's just for determining the type here. These are just one line overrides. because that is a good warning in general. Alright. Do not declare static members on generic types. This is one that FXCop complains about a lot, but this is actually a style that I don't mind. I actually rather like it. And of course changing this would be a breaking change anyway. But this one, I'm going to put in my file, because my editor config file, because it's one that I kind of disagree with more on a philosophical level. So well, I think we're done with, oh no we're not, we need some more things from that. Okay, back over here. This is a long one. Alright, in this externally visible method, blah blah blah, validate compare factory is non-null before using it. Fine. Alright, whatever. We can do that. I'm going to use the, this is a new pattern. That. Somehow I always end up at the end of this errors list, but alright. Provide a method named equals as a friendly alternative for operator op equality. Well, I do though. It's defined by comparable base. It's interesting. This seems to be a false positive here for all of these. But that is a good one in general, so what I'm going to actually do, for this one is, wrong button, is we are going to ignore this one in the source, but I'm going to put it over this whole file because it is, because that's the whole point of this entire class. Look at that. I already got some disable warnings here. I'll just add this to that one. I must have been using FXCop at some point on the solution. Wasn't on there when I arrived today. Alright, no static members and generic types. That one should be disabled in the editor config now, so I'm going to ignore that. Ooh, and nullables. Yes, so that's the other change that's coming in here. The new directory build props enables nullable types, which is really nice. Okay. So this one can be null. Actually, I should walk through everything and make sure that the nullable types are right. I'm going to do that first. So let's see. Wow, there's a lot in here. You know, upgrading a library always takes a little longer than you think. Always does. Okay, so this compare cannot be null. These can be null, but I don't think you can do this yet. They're talking about doing a double question mark syntax, but that isn't in the language yet. Okay, so those may or may not be null. Object may be null. I think that, oh, here we go. This cannot be null. Well, can it? If we implement equals, I'm going to say it could be null. Moving on down, these are all comparers and t values, none of which can be null. Alright. Let's hit compare base. So, yeah, so this one says, these aren't null, but they actually can be null. interesting because that is not unboxing a possibly null value. We know they're not null at that point. This is compiler's static analysis is insufficient to figure this out because x valid and or wait a minute, or no, oh, they can be null. Yeah, okay. But that do compare means they can be null, which is fun. Nullability and generics just don't work well together. It's really hard to get it working right. Let's see, can I do can be null? Of course, I'm in that standard 1, which isn't supported, right? Okay, forget it. I'm just going to lie. Sometimes you just have to lie to the compiler and say, this isn't null, when it really can be null. Because generics just don't work right. Nullability. Okay, so that one looks good. Compare helpers. We've got to compare here. It always is going to return a non-null function. Compare can be null? Wait a minute. Can it be null? No, that one cannot be null. This comparer may be null. Interesting. Alright. Okay. This is one of those times where, like, okay, you've got a system.invoke, and it takes an object, an array of objects. Now, under the new nullability types, none of those objects can be null, which means you can never call a constructor with a null argument. That's the typings for you. So you have to say, no, this null is not null. And the compiler's like, okay, the null is not null. Got it. Alright. Now, this one can be null, it says, but over here, get hash code. It says it may not be null, but you know it could be null. I'm going to change that. Say that this may. Let's say it may be null. We'll say it like that. Okay. Now in the compare base, that one already. And compound comparer. Alright. Which depends on source compare base. Let's do that one first. Just depends on comparer base, which we already have. The interface hierarchy, or the class hierarchy in this project is a little bit deeper than what I usually prefer. Okay, so we've got a get hash code, which may be null. Special bool handling and source also may be null. Alright. There. Now we've worked nullability through the source compare base. Come over here to this compound comparer. Alright, so this one may be null. I'm really glad that I have all these XML comments because it really helps me realize which ones can be null and which ones can't. I've always documented that, or tried to. Okay, looks good. That's the compound comparer. Actually, we're going to start at the top of the hierarchy here. Alright, so equals, these need to be nullable. And then again, we just lie and say they're not nullable, even though they could actually be null at this point. Get hash code also allows nulls. It passes it to another type, lying about whether it is actually null or not. Okay. See, this one says not null. But I don't understand this. Why are these ones can be null, and these ones not null, and this one not null? I don't understand that. Alright. Beats me. So let's go over to, where were we? Quality comparer base. So source equality comparer base. Then can take a null here. We've got some equality compare helpers that are being used here. Updating. This one can be null. Again, we're going to say that that null is not null, so that the compiler stops complaining. So quality compare base. Okay, now we're working back up to our compound equality equator. Now these ones can be null. Kind of keeping track of where I am by the check marks, because probably every single one of these files is going to have to be changed. Okay. That all looks good. Default compare. Fun one. Interesting. Okay. Those are redundant, eh? I put them in explicitly because don't I implement those? Oh, I don't. Interesting. Okay. My bad. I guess we don't need those. Just take them out. I thought I implemented them explicitly or something for some reason. Alright, nullability. That instance is never null. We'll do this. Alright. I think pretty much everything else looks good. Alright. Full string comparer. Oh, right. So the full comparison in this library implement comparable and equatable. That's what full means in this library. So in this case, we want to allow source, and this is really interesting that I don't have XML documentation here. Oh, it's internal, but still strange. Alright, so that one can be nullable. I don't think any of the rest of these care about nullability, except, well, actually, yeah, these ones do. I don't know if this really matters. This just seems really like, please make generics work better. It's lying to the compiler all the time here. Okay, moving on to the null compare. Null compare does nothing. Everything is equal, which is actually pretty cool. Alright, reference equality. Compare for those times that you don't want to do reference equality by yourself. Reverse comparers. This one can be null. A lot of a pretty common convention in this library is for any comparer that builds on another comparer, you can usually pass null, and it'll just build off of the default comparer instead. So it works very nicely with any kind of comparable implementations you already have. Okay, so this one, the key selector cannot be null. That makes sense because we have to invoke that one. The source comparer can be null because we default to the default comparer. Technically that can return a null, but once again there's no way to annotate that. Oh well. So, sorry. Selected quality comparer, same thing as the full comparer, just for only equality. Go to our sequence comparer here. So this one can also be null. The enumerable cannot be null. These enumerators can also not be null because we pass false as special null handling. Then we know that these ones will not be null, which is kind of interesting. I don't know how nullability will ever be able to handle that kind of a thing. That's a runtime consideration. Alright, sequence equality. Got our source comparer nullable, but we pass false for special null handling, so we know that they're never null in here. The end, source comparer. I don't remember why I even have this one. It's just a wrapper. Interesting. And get hash code can also be null. Okay. Works. Just out of curiosity, I gotta see where I'm using this thing. Oh, converting string comparers to ones that actually work correctly. Yeah. I think that's it. It's the only place I actually ever use it. Okay. That works. So, that's like the main meat of this library. All the rest of this is just kind of like APIs for the library. So let's see here. We've got this cannot be nullable, right? Now we are ready. This one is actually not nullable, but it's weird because the derived type has to initialize it. Granted, not the greatest. Read-only property reference can get hash code. Oh, that's interesting. Thing is, if we had init, which isn't in the language yet, but if we had init, I think that would work here. This is a static property, and it's set by a derived class. But it might work. I don't know. We'll see. I should ask if that is actually going to be one of the possible use cases for that. So, can it be null? This one actually can be null, but alright. And comparing can be null. Alright. Moving down to comparable use with operators, and literally this is just use your operators on top of that. Compare builder. And this is all going to be non-null. Have to be. Compare builder 4. Oh. That fits itself. So we've got, let's see. This one should never be null. Yeah. Selector can never be null. The comparer factory itself can't be null. Yeah. So no nulls there. It never returns null either. Selector. Okay, so I've already got one on there. I must have done that one earlier. And yeah, that's it. Okay. Compare extensions. So if you want to reverse any existing comparer, this one can be null technically, I guess. Calling extension methods on null instances is weird to me. Not a fan. But sometimes it is useful. So the then by, which can also be null, interestingly enough. So you can call dot then by null, and it will actually sort then by the default comparer. Again, I've never seen anybody actually do that, but it does stay within the conventions of this library. Here, source comparer, which can be null. Key comparer can be null. And that's all. Never returns null. Sequence also can be null. Alright. And pretty much the same thing for all the equality comparers. These ones actually can't, nothing can be null here. And down. Let's see, the selector can never be null, factory can never be null, key comparer can be null. That's the only thing there. Starting to pick up on it now. The then by can be null. Source can be null. That's all for that one. Source, key comparer, and the source. These can all be null. Alright, moving on to this equatable base. Now again, this is another one of that situation where it's not the best API, but I mean, it works. It's not a really great way to pass a type like that up to the base type that's static. You don't want it on every invocation. Alright, so this one could be null. Want that? Yeah, we do. I'm not sure if I did that right for the comparable ones. Again, this just seems kind of ridiculous. Because this thing can't be instrumented to take null. Equatable base, let me jump back over here. Yeah. Do the same thing for all these. Allow nulls and then turn around and tell the compiler that they're non-null. Can't help but wonder if, you know, another language version or two is going to come out and they'll be like, hey, we finally fixed nullable types all the way, and then you have to come back and undo all of these workarounds that are necessary right now. They work great as long as generics aren't in the mix. Really like nullability. Generics tends to mess everything up with them. Alright, now these are just interface declarations that combine other interface declarations. What do we got here? Type can't be null. String, this could be null. Which means this could be null. Type cannot be null. Name should probably not ever be null. I don't know where this is actually used. Pop this open real quick, make sure we didn't break anything. Oh, yeah, looks like we did. Looks like this not a bug, actually. And this is why I like nullable types. Because so reading the comment here, if T does not implement a default comparer, but default comparer does, right? The T must implement IEnumerable of U. So we actually know that this can't be null here. Good enough. Here I've got that sloppy catch thing. I'll fix that at another time. Okay, here we're checking those against null right away. If it's null, okay. And if it's null, so that's checking the default comparer is implemented, which is never going to be null because that's a type that we control. Alright. Everywhere else except for here. Comparable base default comparer is never going to be null because again that's a type that we control. Alright. So that is everything there. Alright, string compares. We want to allow null here. What this one is? Can this be null? Yeah, this one can be null too. Alright. Okay, cool. So that is that library. Oh, I didn't actually get into these ones though. Let's fix up this first. And I actually don't think that there's going to be anything in here that is anything to do with nullability. This is a very fast hash type. Let's walk through these. Type that handles null values in a standard way passes non-null values to the source comparer. Okay. That makes sense. Allowing null, oops. Allow null for our source comparer, but not for get hash code. Yes, for get hash code. That can be null too. Okay, try that. Ah, yes. So these are all the ones with where you can fix other comparers. Standard null handling comparer. Let me update this one. Let's update that first. Allowing null for that. And that is all. That doesn't sound like that has the right documentation here. Although it is actually what it is doing. Alright. The rest of that looks good. I'll fix this one while I'm over here because it's very similar. Null source comparer. So these are just wrappers. In which case, what's the difference between those and source comparer? Oh, because this one passes nulls also. Gotcha. Okay. Let's see. Back up wherever we were. Allowing sources. Allowing the source. I don't remember if that one can be null or not. I think it can be. Yeah. So we can do that. Although I think that this specific method would never be called with a null get hash code. That wouldn't make sense. I'm going to say that has to not be null. Okay. And then the fixed string compare. Did I actually release this? I thought that this was not released yet. That's possible. I'll have to do a pre-release just to be sure. Okay, so none of these should ever be null. Yep, okay. Same thing with this one. Got nullable source, and that's it. Okay. So that is complete nullability throughout the entire core library. The rest of this should be pretty straightforward, because none of these are going to take null for anything, I don't think. They ain't taking null for anything. Unless there's like a specific... Yeah, we've got to compare a factory, but not an actual comparer. Yeah. So none of those need nullability. Sorting arrays, partially sorting arrays, sorting a pair of arrays. Key selectors can never be null. Factories can never be null. Enumerable sources can never be null. I don't think that can ever be null. Right? Oh, let me jump in here and see. When in doubt, see what Microsoft did. The compare can be null, but not the second enumerable. Okay, fair enough. So really, none of these are going to have anything nullable at all. All the selectors and factories and sequences cannot be null. This is like the easiest null update ever here. And then listing, same thing. Okay. That looks good. Last one. Factories, selectors, and source observables, none of which can be null. That all looks good. All selectors and factories, no actual comparables, so we're all good. Alright, that's what I thought. I just wanted to look through those to be sure. Now, save everything. Let's try to rebuild and see what happens here. Still got a lot of FXCop complaints. So let's walk through these. That one I thought I disabled. Maybe I didn't save. Maybe I didn't disable it right. There. Alright. Alright, yeah. And add in a bunch of don't be helpful Visual Studio. Got a whole bunch of these. This one, actually, where are we at? Because I just fixed this with the other one, compare builder, and I just disabled this on each line, because again, that is a useful error message. So that we pick up those editor config changes. And we've still got over 200. Right on. Okay. Oh, okay. We got to just do these. All these fun argument null exception checks. That's going to be a little common, I think. This one, the comparer may not be null. I'm going to document that. Apparently didn't do that before. And that is true for all of these. And these can be null. Because at this point, any kind of default behavior has already been applied. It's assuming that if you're using these lower level methods, you'll always pass them isn't null. Alright, so I really don't like this, but whatever. Technically they are correct. Same for all the equality comparers. I do have kind of a bad habit of assuming that things are not null. I'll just say, hey, you can't pass a null here. And then if anybody ever does pass a null, bummer for them. I don't actually throw argument null exception. But it is considered nice for a library to do that. And back to compare. Okay, fine. So we'll make this library a little bit nicer. probably misuse it. Alright. Memory 3 hash should override equals. Probably not. I don't know why you would think that. Just because it's a struct? It shouldn't override equals. You should never be equating these things. No, I'm just going to disable that for this file. This file is some higher performance code where sometimes FX kappa recommendations just don't make sense. So I'm going to disable this guy right here. And what other ones? CA172. Avoid using cref tags with a prefix. Oh. Well, you know what? If you gave me the ability to actually reference and overload, I wouldn't have to use one with a prefix. Wow, I didn't even know that was a warning. I mean, that's so obscure. Who even knows to do that? If you know enough to do that, you would know that it's okay, or that you have to do it in that situation. It's not like anybody would ever choose to do that on purpose. So I'm just going to turn off this warning completely. Okay. Once again, provide a method named equals. Well, it already exists. So I'm just going to turn this one off for this file. It exists on the base type, so it should not be defined here. Passes a literal string for argument exception. Retrieve it from a resource table instead. You know? Okay. Okay, I'm not doing that, sorry. 1303. Coming up here. Should probably put these in numerical order. Just because. Ooh, that's a very generic, so the parameter is supposed to be localized. Okay, so they have some kind of signal there that should be a localized string. Got it. But it's an argument exception. I mean, it's one that's done at, it's a boneheaded exception, so sorry. It's not that important. Should never be exposed to the user anyway. Alright. Okay. This one I'm just going to ignore because in this particular type, or in this particular case, that's okay. Non-nullable properties uninitialized, that is true, but yeah, we can work that one. We'll do it that way. I love it. Here's a null. That's not a null. That's not actually null. Okay. I believe you. See. Hey, 2225, that's fine. Alright. And we're cleaning up these compare factories still. This is the fun side of programming. There is a payoff. We get to use the new build system. All of our stuff will have nullable typings. It'll be nice. It's a lot better if you actually code from the beginning with all of these guards in place, but when I first wrote this library, fxcop was not easy to get usable. XML configuration and everything. So these days you can actually just install a NuGet package and it works fine. So much nicer. A lot of these enumerable extensions just have the same exact thing. We invoke the compare factory, and then we invoke the underlying type that actually takes a compare. Alright. Come along here. Let's do the same thing for our list extensions. I don't know if you can hear that, but my computer fan is going a little crazy. It's trying to recalculate all the errors as I fix them. And it's keeping up pretty well. And observable extensions. This should be the last big one. A lot of these APIs are useful just, I'd say they're primarily useful because they allow you to infer the type that you're comparing from an existing link expression. So if you're deep in some link expression and you've got some weird anonymous type or something, you can just call one of these APIs instead of trying to create a comparer for your, for some anonymous type. That can get really messy. So these are just convenience overloads, but when you need them, they're really convenient. Okay, I'm gonna build. See where we're at. Hey, look at that. All the errors are gone, except there's still a couple. Still hasn't caught up updating this. Okay, cool. Excellent. Alright, so that means we are now at a place where we can check in. Yay! We have just a few changes to go in. So this is fxcop and nullable types. We'll just do that. Okay. Now I do want to, before I leave here, I want to finish up getting this thing on a new build system, which was the original goal of all this. I didn't convert these new spec files either. That might have to be done later. Oh, no, let's do that. I just want to walk through this real quickly because this is a really nice capability of the new build system. And it took me a little while to figure out how everything goes together. I don't know if Disposables has this. I don't see directory build targets in here. No, okay. Let me open up an older one. We've done Disposables, dependency injection. I think it's the one with the targets also, right? Yes. So this is a targets file that I've come up with that allows easily creating NuGet metapackages, that is packages without DLLs, using csproj instead of nuspec files. So nuspec is the old school way of doing that. If you want to inherit like a bunch of your settings from directory build props and things like that, so that your authors and your description and all that gets auto-populated, that's difficult to do with a nuspec file because it doesn't go through the build system. So what I can do here is got my directory build props. I'm going to add a new file, directory build targets, and just stick that in there. And what this does, this works off of, you have to set is metapackage to true in your csproj, and once you do that, it will not build, it'll still build empty DLLs, but it won't include them in the package. It won't include any symbols in the package, which you also have to turn off separately. And it also has this no warning. This is a warning that comes up because your metapackage will target certain frameworks, and this will, but it doesn't have any DLLs for those frameworks. So this is a new NuGet warning that will say, hey, you targeted these frameworks, but you don't have any DLLs, which is usually a mistake, but not a mistake in a meta package. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to convert this meta package over into a csproj-based meta package. Right now it's a nuspec. For a while there was something called nuproj, N-U-P-R-O-J, but the new csproj style makes that unnecessary. So let me open this up. I'm going to stick it right in with my other we got tests and source. Okay, right now all my nuspec files are underneath solution items. Meh. Should I stick it under source? I'm gonna give it a separate folder here. Called metapackages. And I'm gonna create a new project. There's no like project template for this or anything like that. So just create a new class library for net standard because we want the new style, SDK style csproj, and it's going to go under source. I'm going to call it Comparers. We'll do that. Now I've got this Nito.Comparers. It's got a class file which I'm going to delete. Goodbye. And then I'm going to edit this project file. And this is all going to be project file editing here. So let me close everything else just to keep it all clean here. This is what we're going to use to build the new one. So let's work off of the old one. All right. So we had a version. Once again, so the nuspec files, you know, they all had their own version. There isn't really a good way to flow this kind of information down. In this new csproj file, it'll pick up the version from our directory build props automatically. Don't have to do anything. So we don't need the version, we don't need the ID, it picks that up automatically. Authors picks it up automatically. License, project URL, icon, all gets picked up automatically from the directory build props. The description does need to go in, and that is, let me remember how to, actually let's do this in VS Code. Yeah, this is a nicer environment I think for this. So we've got the nuspec file, and what else do I want? Directory build props does not set that right. We've got the description here. This is how this is going to look in the new world. I don't have the new one open. There. Okay. So we've got the last comparison library you'll ever need. So what Oh, okay, so I did not actually put in any target frameworks in the original meta package, which is incorrect. I should have done that. So let's see what we've got here. The target frameworks for the core are Net Standard 1 and 2. The target frameworks for Link, which is also brought in by the same meta package, is Net Standard 1, 3, 2, Net Force 2, and Net Core App 2. Interesting. So for the meta package, I think, should I just do Net Standard 1? That's like the common denominator between all of these. Or should I put in this whole list? I think I'm just going to keep the 1. Do that. And see if NuGet complains. So that's our Nito.Comparers csproj. Alright. We don't need that one anymore. And then we have those dependencies and the tags. That's what I'm forgetting, the tags. I'll pull over package tags. And then, actually I'm going to jump back into Visual Studio here real quickly, just so I can really easily say project reference. And this is all you have to do to add dependencies to your meta package. I'm going to add core and link, and that's it. And the other thing I need to do is enable my props file, or targets file, by setting is meta package to true. So is meta package true. I just copied that and didn't paste it. Okay. Is meta package is true, and that should let us build. We should be good to build at this point. Now, whenever we do just a regular old .NET Core build, it should also, or sorry, I did a build. We need to do a pack in order to actually make the packages. Builds it all pretty nice. Let's do a pack. And it built this one. Nito.Comparers 600 dev. Let's crack it open, take a look, shall we? Where are we at? Comparers. Source. Comparers bin debug. There it is. Let's take a look. So dev, no files, it's fine. It's got the icon in it, embedded in it. It's got the MIT license expression, everything is built in. It's got everything it needs for source indexing, although there isn't actually any source indexing here. Now there's dependencies. .NET Standard 1.0. Trying to think of how NuGet dependencies work and if that will. I don't think that'll force the wrong dependencies. It won't force to load those as Net Standard 1. I don't think. Oh, but it's pulling in Net Standard library. Yeah. Okay. You know what? I'm going to change that, and I'm going to say that I'm going to reverse that. For my meta package, I want to have like all of these target frameworks instead. Let's see. Let's do that. See how that looks. Okay, no warnings or errors. That looks better. Yeah, I like that better. Okay, we'll call that good. Alright. One more thing I want to do before I go, and that is to actually upgrade the build system. I'm not going to bother converting these other nuspec packages because it's very similar. Whoa, that's interesting. So can I do this one, a meta package that depends on another meta package? I've never actually tried that. Let's try that real quick. Sometimes VS gets a little confused if you change the target frameworks. So let's do this. And let's say compare. Just delete all the code. We're only interested in the actual csproj. I guess we'll take the full target frameworks again. I think that makes sense, right? I think so. Description, I'm going to steal from our old nuspec file because again, this was done before NuGet even had the concept of deprecated packages and things like that. So this was like deprecation before deprecation existed. Oh, you know, actually I don't want those dependencies though. Not those dependencies. I want a dependency on Nito.Comparers. Let's see if this works. I'm curious. Save everything. Pop back over to my VS Code. Do a pack here. Let's see if this works. I expect it would, but I've never tried it before. I'm going to comparers now. Look at this package. What have we got? Okay. Yeah, it looks just totally fine. Yeah. That's good. Alright. Excellent. Alright, well, let's knock out these other ones real quick. I'm gonna go have some breakfast. So the old ones were called, they're right over here on the right here, comparers.ix. Delete that class. Oh, no, I didn't do. Oh no, I did do that. Yeah, never mind. Don't know what I'm talking about. So I'm gonna copy this one over to here, except for that package reference. And this one. This one, yeah. Visual Studio really doesn't like it when you change that. Alright. Force the Nito.Comparers IX, that's fine. I just want to double check my target frameworks here. Yeah, I'm just gonna change that to have the same target frameworks. Just for cleanliness here. Alright, now we've got one more, and that is for Rx. compares.rx. That's what it was called. And come into that project file again. So just forwards to rx, save it, let Visual Studio go trippy. And rx has no standard 1 and 2. Okay, so that's the same. And yeah, that should actually be, oh, silly me, I didn't actually add the dependencies. So ix, compares ix forwards to Nito.Compares ix, and compares rx forwards to Nito.Compares rx. That is correct. I've got all the other ones. Okay, so that's all our meta packages then. And we do not need these at all anymore. We are also removing version and coverage and build and app failure because all those are being replaced with the new build system. So let's see where we're at checking wise. So we're going to say these are all the new meta packages. That then puts us at a point where we can update our build, and then we can get rid of some of these old files. So what have we got here? Where's, uh-oh, I mess up. Oh dear. I'm on string compares. I'm not even on the right branch. Ah! Now is not the time you should be realizing you're on the wrong branch. Wow. Okay. Bad. Bad, Steve. Bad. Okay. Well, let's fix this manually because I don't know how messed up this is. Yeah. Okay. I thought that none of that was released yet. Oh, I'm not even using murmur 3 hashing. Wow. Grr, that's gonna make cherry picking this one a pain. You know what? I'm gonna fail forward. I'm gonna say that the next version has the string compares and all of this stuff. That's called failing forward. Okay. So here we're on master. Problem is, I think I may have updated some things. Might want to merge this in sooner rather than later. I'm going to set it, I'm going to give it a pre-release version onto master. That's what I'm going to do. Okay, so what do I want to do? I want to, I'm suspecting that there's actually some minor changes on master that I need to pull in. I want to pull it in on this branch. I'm going to close this solution because Visual Studio is not very happy when you change branches underneath it. Everything's checked in. So I'm going to check out master. Yeah, there is something there. I'm going to pull. What else got changed here? I think it's just picking up. Oh yeah, it's just picking up that stuff. String compares, and I'm going to go get rebase. Rebase on the master. Should be able to fast forward. Overwrite the whole branch and push everything up. Okay. Now we should be able, now we've got that Git directory in there, the GitHub directory. And now I can just steal my build YAML, which should be pretty much the same for this one. This is under workflows. Just walk through this and make sure. Every time anything is pushed, dump the context. This is what I always do in my GitHub Actions, just so that you always have it there, right there, whenever you're debugging. This is unnecessary because the event name is always push. Wait, how do I want that to work? This is how I have it set up in dependency injection, but I think that's wrong. I fixed that in one of my other projects. Must be disposables. I did not fix it. Okay. Alright. We'll fix that later. Caches all the NuGet packages, builds, tests. You know, the tests I have now updated to support the new kind of code coverage. Updates everything. Publishes it. I haven't set up any secrets yet, so it won't actually publish any NuGet packages when I enable this build. So tests. Let me look at the tests real quickly and make sure that this is ready. So the test projects, I think the main thing is that I just need to upgrade all this stuff to the latest, and everything else should just work out of the box. But I'm pretty sure that all these tests are way out of date. Talking very, very early support here. Oh, I do have coverlet in here. Okay. So, test SDK, major version bump, XUnit is actually the same version. And coverlet. Yeah, okay. That's, oh, coverlet MS build is the old one, I think. Coverlet collector is the new one. Okay. And this block, probably should have like a directory build props in my test project too, but I'm lazy. I don't think I will do that. I'd rather do that. Give me a directory build props out here. Lowercase props makes a difference on Linux. Give me an empty file. Well, good enough. I mean, you have the SDK there. And then that's it, actually. So everything's referencing the same versions, and then I can just rip all that right out of these files here. Did I just copy the wrong ones? I copied, yeah, I copied MS build over there. No, those are the wrong ones here. These are the ones that we want over there. Yeah. This is what you get if you create a new test project today. So let's delete all these really old ones. You know. So now I should be pulling in all of that from the directory build props for unit tests, for the RX unit tests. Actually, yeah, all of those. Our entire item group there is gone. For the link unit tests, entire item group is gone. And for the IX's interactive extensions. Not very well known library, but one that is pretty cool. And what I should do is upgrade this to, I should add another package that does it for asynchronous streams. Well, that'll be a project for another day. But yes, I should extend these APIs out to that as well. Let's see if this works. .NET test. This long pause could mean anything. There we failures. Interesting. Well, that's very interesting. Just seeing some unexpected responses. I'm going to dive into that in just a moment. I want to finish this build workflow here. So let's do this. Enable new build. And actually, yeah, no, that'll work for now. I changed it there. Okay. And then let's see. Let's pop this baby back open and see what's broken. And I think I'm going to use a tool real quickly. I keep saying I'm going to finish this up and go get some breakfast. It hasn't happened yet. So ignore the meta packages. I'm going to use a tool here that is the live unit testing. Now what this does, this is like the killer feature of Visual Studio. Runs all your tests in the background all the time. Really useful if you're doing something like refactoring. It takes a minute or so to start up, but then it actually runs all of your unit tests. And this one says they're all passing. How interesting. I wonder if I have a erase condition, because all the ones that failed were the RX ones. The command line. Curiouser and curiouser. What is it on this again? This is running in debug, which shouldn't change anything. I did run it, and the command line I did run them in debug. I get 2 failures before we had 4. Both of the failures are still in RX. Is this... find this test here. Test, not the source. So here's the one here. So this should create an observable that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then we group them by their own value, but we equate them by modulus 3. I'm wondering if these can come out in any order, is what I'm wondering. And my test doesn't allow for that. So if they're grouped, I'm trying to think of how group by even works in observables right now. It's way too early in the morning and I haven't had breakfast. Let's see. So if they're grouped, they would go into each group as they come in. They take the last group, yeah. Okay, yeah, I think that these can come out of here in any order, actually. See what this one here. Let me check. So these group by failed and group by failed, and before when we had 4 failures, it was group by, group by, group by, and group by. Yep. Probably a pretty good indication that I'm being too specific here, because 1, 4, 2, 5, and 1, 4, 3. Yeah, they were coming out in a different order. That's what it was. So probably each of these tests needs to be updated. Okay, you can do that. I'm going to do that after breakfast though. So, we are coming up to quite a long time being coding online. And sun is up, breakfast is calling me, and so I am going to say goodbye for now. We did some good progress on the comparers library. We've got it ready to go onto the new build system. Converted all of our nuspec files over to the new csproj style of metapackages. So pretty good progress on this library. Added nullable type, all the nullable type annotations, and the FX cop warnings. Cleaned up all those. Yeah, so this is we've pretty much updated this library to be ready to publish a pre-release version. I got to clean up a little bit of the unit tests. And yeah, that's it. So thank you for sitting with me in this beautiful Saturday morning, and I hope you have a